Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you are doing very well. So, welcome to this class. Today, we are going to discuss the first chapter of class 11th, that is some basic concept of chemistry. Basically, the chapter name itself suggesting that we are discussing only the basic concepts of chemistry in this particular class. Okay, the chapter name is some basic concepts of chemistry. As you know very well, in the upcoming chapters, we have to use some formulas, we have to use some definitions, we have to use some conversions like temperature conversions, volume conversions, pressure conversion, etc. So the formulas, the conversions and everything we will cover in this particular chapter, and then we will use these basic concepts in the upcoming chapters, okay, of class 11. So the chapter is some basic concepts of chemistry. First of all, I want to give an overview of this chapter, that what we will be discussing. I will tell you what is chemistry, what is the importance of chemistry, what are the applications of chemistry. Then we will go to the next point, that will be matter. The most and important part will be matter. What is matter? You know very well, and you have learned in your previous classes. So matter is nothing. In your previous classes, you know matter is anything that has mass and occupies some space and can be perceived by our senses. After that, we will be discussing the nature of matter. Nature of matter. What is matter made up of? That is the main question. Then we will be discussing classification of matter. Classification of matter. Also, we will be discussing states of matter. Basically, we will be discussing only three states of matter: solid, liquid and gas. Matter can exist in three states: solid, liquid and gas. Apart from this, two more states are there, like plasma and Bose-Einstein condensate, BEC. So we will discuss states of matter. In states of matter, we will discuss solids, what are solids, what are liquids, and what are gases. And also, we will discuss the properties of each state of matter. It means we will discuss the properties of solid, liquid, and gases. Examples of solid, liquid, and gases. Okay. After that, we will discuss some basic points, like you will understand in this chapter that matter is made up of atoms. Matter is made up of what? Atoms. So you can see, and according to John Dalton, we will discuss what are the points of John Dalton. What is Dalton atomic theory? We will discuss that. So according to John Dalton, or till John Dalton, you can say atom is the smallest particle which cannot divide further, which is uncuttable, which is indivisible. Okay. You can't see an atom with your naked eyes. Okay. It means we can't see an atom with our naked eyes. Then we will understand that if atom is not visible with our naked eyes, but atom exists, right? But atom exists. If atom is existing, it means some of the atoms are there which are not independently exist. Okay, which cannot exist independently, individually. So they will combine. How? Chemically, not physically. They will combine chemically and they will form molecule. So if atoms are combining chemically, you will get molecule. So after that, we will understand what is a molecule and what are the categories of molecules. Categories based on the combination of atoms. You can say molecules can be categorized based on the combination of atoms in two categories, like molecule of elements and molecule of compounds. Molecule of elements and molecule of compounds. What are the examples of molecule of elements? What are the examples of molecule of compounds? I will discuss all these things. Okay. After atom, molecule, and these basic terms, we will go to the next point, that will be the basically laws of chemical combination. These things are combining, these molecules are forming, right? The formula of water is H2O. Why the formula of water is only H2O? Why it is not H3O? Why it is not HO? Why? So we will discuss these things in the laws of chemical combination. In laws of chemical combination, we will discuss some important laws. There are 5 basic laws. The one is law of conservation of mass. The second is law of constant proportion by mass or law of definite proportion by mass. Or you can say law of fixed proportion by mass. Law of fixed proportion by mass. The important thing is here the third law, that is the law of multiple proportion. The next is Gay-Lussac law of gaseous volumes, and the last one will be Avogadro's law. Gay-Lussac law, of gaseous volume, and the last one is Avogadro's law. The last one is Avogadro's law. So these are the laws of chemical combination. These are the 5 basic laws of chemical combination. The next one is, after the laws of chemical combination, we will discuss Dalton's atomic theory. What are the postulates of Dalton's atomic theory? What are the limitations of Dalton's atomic theory? After Dalton's atomic theory, like till Dalton's atomic theory, you can say atom is uncuttable. But after that, certain experiments were done and so many theories are there, and according to that, atom is cuttable. It means atom consists particles which are named as subatomic particles. And we will discuss what is the structure of an atom, how atom looks, it is round, it is square, or what. We will discuss this point in the next chapter, that will be the structure of atom. So basically I want to tell you atoms consist of subatomic particles, around 35 subatomic particles, but we will be discussing the fundamental particles which are electron, proton and neutron. After Dalton's atomic theory, we will discuss some important concepts like mole concept, like atomic mass, like molar mass, like molecular mass, like formula mass, or you can say formula unit mass, etc. After that, we will discuss stoichiometry, or you can say stoichiometric, and its calculation. And the last one we will be discussing, limiting reagent. What is limiting reagent? And the question based on that. What is limiting reagent? So these are the topics that we are going to discuss in this particular chapter, some basic concepts of chemistry. Around 12 to 13 topics are there. So first of all, I want to start with what is chemistry. As you know very well, chemistry is nothing that is the branch of science which deals with what? Which deals with the properties, reactions, structure of material substances. This is known as chemistry. It means in chemistry, basically we will deal with the nature of matter, reactions of matter, right? Etc. And also chemistry is not only of the 118 elements chemistry. It is the science of more than 118 elements. It means it is a science of elements. It is a science of compounds. Those are formed. It is a science of those molecules, those compounds, those are formed by the combination of these elements. It means it is not limited to only 118 elements. It is beyond this. It is beyond this. I hope you are getting an idea that what is chemistry. Chemistry is very important in our daily life. If we are walking, we are talking, if we are eating, we are drinking, or we are doing some work, everywhere chemistry works. Even if you are taking any medicine, right? For example, cisplatin. Cisplatin is used as an anti-cancerous drug, right? Taxol. For example, AZT. AZT is used for AIDS, right? Which is very, very, you can say dangerous disease, harmful disease, right? So these drugs are what? These are this in this chemistry is used, and these are made up of chemicals, right? These are made up of chemicals. Definitely, possibly they will be like naturally, or they will be man-made, that means synthetic. In these drugs, the chemicals, the structures, the molecules, whatever is the compounds are there, possibly they can be extracted naturally, or if required, they are made in laboratories. So let's understand what is chemistry and what are the importance of chemistry. I told you what is chemistry, right? So chemistry plays a central role in science and is often intertwined with other branches of science as well, like zoology, like botany, like physics, etc. Principles of chemistry are applicable in diverse areas, like weather patterns. Chemistry helps to predict the weather patterns. Tomorrow will be raining, tomorrow will be cloudy, or what type of weather will be tomorrow. So chemistry helps us in prediction of weather patterns, not only for tomorrow, for the next month, for next week, etc. Functioning of brain. In brain, definitely chemistry works. So many types of you can say processes are happening in our brain, and that is mostly about chemistry. Operation of a computer. Production in chemicals, industries, fertilizers, paints, dyes, alkalis, acids, salts, polymers, drugs, soaps, detergents, metals, alloys. So many types of substances, material substances, matter are there in our daily life that we can see, and where chemistry works, where chemistry use, and where is the importance of chemistry. I hope you are getting that chemistry contributes in a big way to the national economy as well. Okay, so this is the like small importance of chemistry. It plays an important role in meeting human needs for food as well, healthcare products, medicines, and other material aimed at improving the quality of life. Example: fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides. It provides methods for what? Methods for isolation of life saving drug, as I told you already na, life saving drugs like AZT, like Taxol, like cisplatin from natural sources, and makes possible synthesis of such drugs, right? You can see cisplatin is used as a cisplatin and Taxol, which are effective in cancer therapy, so definitely what you can say, that chemistry is very very important in our daily life. Chemistry is very very important in our daily life, or in our, to make the life healthy as well, to make the life healthy, and to make the life quality, to improve the quality of the life, to improve the quality of the life. In recent years, chemistry has helped in dealing with some of the pressing aspects of environmental degradation with a fair degree of success. For example, you have heard ozone depletion, ozone layer depletion. This ozone layer depletion takes place due to the what? CFC. Due to CFC, due to like harmful refrigerants, due to hazardous refrigerants. But now safer alternatives are there. So in recent years, chemistry has helped in dealing with some of the pressing aspects of environmental degradation with a fair degree of success. Safer alternatives to environmentally hazardous refrigerants like CFC, which is named as chlorofluorocarbon, which is like a CF2Cl2, chlorofluorocarbon, responsible for ozone depletion in the stratosphere. In stratosphere layer, ozone layer is present, and in like when CFC goes in stratosphere, they will react with ozone, and they can what? Deplete the ozone layer. And now safer alternatives have been successfully synthesized. One such problem is the management of the greenhouse gases like methane, which is nothing, that is CH4, like carbon dioxide, which is CO2. There is a problem in management of these greenhouse gases, which is methane and carbon dioxide and etc. But now some alternatives are also there. I hope you are getting a clear idea that understanding of biochemical processes, the uses of enzymes, maltase, sucrase, lactase, right, invertase for large scale production of chemicals and synthesis of new exotic material are some of the intellectual challenges for the future generation of chemists. So this is very important, and these are the some importance of chemistry in our life. To be a good chemist and to accept such challenges, one needs to understand the basic concepts of chemistry that we are going to discuss in this particular chapter, which begin with the concept of matter. So what is matter? I will discuss this point. What is matter? Matter is something that has mass and occupies some space. And it can be perceived by our senses. This is known as matter. So you can see around you so many things are there, like your pen, your notebook, your table, your food, your chair, your bed sheet, and your bag, your geometry box, or anything else which is occupying some space, which is having some mass. Even air is also a matter. How can you prove that air is matter? If we are inhaling oxygen, exhaling carbon dioxide, these are the part of air, na? So how can you say that? We can sense this air, right? We can sense air. Suppose I am blowing out, so I can feel that, right? I can feel on my hand, right? But my point is that how can you prove that air is occupying some space? You know very well, around us oxygen is present, but if I am moving my hand like this, so I am not feeling any type of restriction, any type of resistance while feeling any type of drag or anything else, right, while moving my hand. But you are saying like here, air is present here. If air is present, air is occupying space, so how can I move my hand? If there is like my hand, and if I want to move my another hand here, so I can't move because this space is occupied by this hand, right? Unless I'm not removing this. We can't move my hand like this. If I'm moving this, it is striking with this. It is colliding with this. So the point is here that air is occupying space. We will discuss the property. Air is a gas. So we will discuss the properties of gases, and then you will understand that how can I move my hand in here very easily without the feel of any type of restriction, any type of resistance, or any type of drag. Okay. So air is matter. Let's prove it. We have to prove air is matter. Let's do a small activity. What is the activity? For this activity, you need some material. You need a bucket with 3/4 part of water. It is not exactly 3/4. You can take half, you can take full as well. Okay, totally depends on you. It's not a foundation that you have to take 3/4 part of water. This bucket is full with water. It means 75% around bucket full with water. You can take a jar. Okay, an inverted jar. Let's try to put the inverted jar into this bucket, which is full with water, or you can say which is approximate full with water. But try to put this jar inverted into this bucket or inside this bucket. It means in the water. So if you are pushing from here, just make sure the jar is exactly inverted. It is not tilted. It is not tilted. It means this one, this end and this end exactly at the same time touching the surface of water. So what will happen? Because inside the jar, suppose this is a glass jar and it is transparent. So inside the jar, you can't see anything, but air is present. So we are proving that air is matter, air can occupy space. How? If you are pushing this jar inside the water, right, towards bottom, so what will happen? Water will not go inside the jar. And it looks like this. Water goes here and here, but water will not go inside the jar because inside the jar air is present, and air is not getting any loophole or any space. From that particular space air can escape. So air is not escaping here because air is not getting any space, or if air is not escaping, so definitely the particular space that is occupied by air cannot be occupied by any other matter. It means it cannot be occupied by liquid because this space is occupied by air. This space is occupied by air. So that's why liquid cannot go inside until unless the jar is empty and the jar is what? The jar is free from air. The jar is free from air. So this is very interesting point that air can occupy space. You can take balloons. You can take inflated tires or deflated tires. You can weight them and then you can check that the air can occupy some space and air is having some mass as well. Air is having some mass as well. So this is something about matter. So anything which has mass, let's understand the nature of matter, and we are discussing some basic concepts of chemistry. Anything which has mass and occupies space is called matter. Everything around us, for example, you can take book, you can take pen, pencil, water, air, all living beings, animals are composed of matter. My question is that what is matter made up of? I will discuss that, and you know the answer. Matter is made up of atoms, but I will discuss that, don't worry. So the point is here, the states of matter. Because we have seen air, right? And while doing that particular activity, what we were using a jar, glass jar, and we were using water, liquid. It means while doing the activity, actually we are playing the states of matter. We are playing with the states of matter. So there are three states of matter basically. three states of matter. The first one is gas, or you can take first one is solid, the second one is liquid, and the other one is gas. Matter can exist in three physical states. The one is solid, liquid, and gas. The point is here, you can see a diagram here. In this diagram, a cube like structure, a cylinder like structure, and you can take this, what you can say, this is a titration flask. It is not a titration flask. You can say this is a jar. Okay, so you can see this is cylindrical shape and this is a cone shape. Okay, this is like a cone shape if you will take this like this. Okay, the point is here, the main point is here that I'm not going with the shapes. I am saying this is solid, this is liquid, and this is gas. And you can see some particles are there, some balls are there. These balls are named as constituent particles. First of all, understand this. This one is solid. Why? I will tell you. This one is liquid. Why? I will tell you. And this one is gas. Why? I will tell you. Constituent particles. These particles are named as what? Constituent particles. Now you can see in case of solids, the constituent particles are like this. They're very close to each other. They are very close to each other. So from here we can understand the characteristics of particles of matter. In characteristics of particles of matter, certain points are there. The first point is that particles of matter occupy space. Particles of matter occupy space and they can be perceived by our senses, and they are having interparticle forces of attraction. Particles of matter have interparticle forces of attraction. If particles of matter have interparticle forces of attraction, the interesting point is that they are very close to each other. It means they have space, they have interparticle forces of attraction, and they are in continuous motion. Not only in liquid or gases, in solids they are in motion. They are not moving here and there. They are vibrating only. They are vibrating only. They are vibrating only. Repeating one more time, in solid, liquid, and gas, in case of solids, the particles are close like this. In case of liquids, the particles are like this. In case of gases, the particles are like this. In case of solids, if I want to say that solid particles are free to move, no, they are very much strongly attractive with each other. They are not free to move. It means in solids you can say the interparticle forces of attraction is very strong, but if the particles are close, so interparticle space is very less. In case of liquids, the particles are little bit far away from each other, more than solids and less than gases. It means you can say in liquids the particles are free to move, little bit free to move. Okay, and in liquids the particles or you can say the constituent particles. In liquids, the constituent particles have more space than solids and less space than liquids, and they have more strong interparticle forces of attraction than gases and less interparticle forces of attraction than solids. Let's move to the next and the third state, that is the gaseous state. In gaseous state, you can see the particles have more space. They are free to move. They have more space, very large space. If the particles have more space, suppose one particle is here, another is here, and I am moving my hand like this. Suppose I am striking with this, I am colliding with this particle. So what will happen? Because the gaseous particles have more space, so they are free to move. So whenever I am colliding with this, the particles will move. The particles will move to the next position because they have more space and they can occupy the available space, right? They can occupy the available space. So this is about the solid, liquid and gases. You can see here, in solids the particles are close, in liquids the particles are little bit far away from each other, in gases the particles are very far away from each other. In solids the interparticle force of attraction is very strong, and then in liquids, and in gases the interparticle force of attraction is very weak, right? You can say in gases the interparticle force of attraction is negligible, and in solids the interparticle space is negligible. Okay, so what will be the order of interparticle forces of attraction among solid, liquid and gas? So gases have weakest interparticle forces of attraction, right? Then liquids, then solids. If I want to say this is forces of attraction, if I want to say what will be the interparticle space order, so in gases the interparticle space is largest, then in liquids, then in solids. This will be the decreasing order for interparticle space. For interparticle space. I hope you are getting these points, and these points are important. Okay, so the constituent particles of matter in these three states, you can see they are represented as shown in this diagram. So in this particular chapter, what I told to you what is chemistry, what are the importance of chemistry, what are the applications of chemistry, and then I introduced matter, and little bit I told to you, and we have learned nature of matter and some other definitions. So after that we will be discussing in the next class. So I hope so far everything is clear to you, and you are getting a clear idea that chemistry is very, very important. Chemistry is very, very important. We have discussed matter, the three states of matter, solid, liquid and gas. The properties of solids, liquid and gas we will be discussing in our next class. So thank you so much everyone. We will meet soon in the next class with new topics. So the basic concept of chemistry is an important chapter, and we have to learn this basic concepts so that we can use these basic concepts in the upcoming chapters. So thank you so much.